Already, we're doing things a little differently this episode. Number one, if you are watching right now, you can probably tell we're doing audio only this podcast. Truth is, I'm a little tired. I haven't shaved in a week. Uh, Video maybe isn't the best idea for me right now. But number two, Matt is on vacation. He is staying in Jacksonville, Florida. He's actually staying at the Marriott just south of the airport there. Hotel room 2114 if you want to go say hi. He will be signing merch. He'll be playing a guest in chess and just willing to hang out. So that is the Marriott in I can't even remember what I said. Jackson, Florida, maybe Jacksonville, Florida. That is room number 2114. So enjoy this week of the podcast. I am going over all the tools you need to hit 1500. No pun intended, episode number 33. Thank you all for joining us. As always, we are so grateful to be hosting a podcast for you guys. I love the podcast. It's probably the most fun I have doing chess goals. I love just talking to people, catching up with Matt, and just going over the news. So if you want to share the great game of chess, if you want to help us out and give us a handshake, you can give us a like, a favorite, a subscribe, or ratings really help, especially on Spotify and iTunes. That really helps push us out in front of new people. So that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Today, I am talking about how to get you to 1500. Let's say you're over 1500, 1700, 1900. Maybe you're a master like Matt Jensen, who is unable to join us this week. If you are over 1500, we have other really good episodes for you. This probably isn't going to be super applicable. You could stick around, and it would help our engagement numbers if you didn't quit the episode right now. But that being said, let's get into the road to 1500. So there's two things you need to do to hit 1500, and they're very simple, but they're very difficult. So thing number one is you have to actually have the knowledge to be at 1500, and that is different from thing number two, which is having the skill to get 1500. I think it's much easier to actually have the chess knowledge, the chess foundation, the board awareness, tactical awareness to get to 1500. But that is different than being able to actually apply that over the board in a consistent manner to build your rating all the way up to 1500. So, Kostya Kavutsky from Chess Dojo has a very good video on this, and I will link it in the description. After you finish this podcast, go watch that, and he will describe it much more elegantly, whatever, than I can do. So I'm going to link that and have the master himself explain it to you. But I want to talk about the pillars of what you actually need to do to build up that 1500 strength. So I'm going to be using kind of like a metaphor throughout this whole thing, and that is longtime listeners of the podcast will know that I do some running. I ran a marathon almost a year ago. I mean, I was probably in the heart of training about a year ago now. And I'm not saying that to like brag or anything like that. I'm simply saying that I've done a marathon, so I kind of know what it likes for the training to look like. And I noticed that there's a lot of parallels between training in fitness and some fitness area. Maybe it's a marathon, maybe it's bodybuilding, and training chess. So let's use this metaphor. So let's say you want to train for a marathon. Uh, you're probably thinking, okay, well, what shoes do I need? Okay, and that is a question I could answer, but it doesn't really matter all that much. And I would give the same answer if you asked me what kind of opening should I play. It doesn't really matter all that much. When you're first getting started, of course you need running shoes. Of course you need an opening. But honestly, when you're at the 1500 level, your opening choice really does not matter all that much. You can get to 1500 playing basically anything. You can get to 1500 by playing the London, of course, by playing e4, c4, knight f3, anything. And in fact, if you plop down, like let's just use an extreme example. If you plop down Matt and give him his first four moves, assuming he's not like playing Bon Cloud or something, he's going to navigate through that position just fine, no matter what the opening is. No matter if he's ever played the opening before. We'll play Blitz at Matt's house, and he'll just play the most nonsensical stuff that he's never played. And I'll tell him on move like four, like, I have no idea what this is. I'm not in theory. He's like, yeah, me neither. And he always beats me. So that's the thing. pick something, pick an opening, or pick a running shoe that you like, that works for you, and forget about it. Don't change it. Um, Changing your running shoes or changing your opening is not going to make a dent in your running progress or your chess progress. So that is step number one. Uh, okay, another thing before I go to step number two, actually, uh, people in running get really caught up with running shoes. There's entire YouTube channels dedicated to just reviewing running shoes. And as we know, there's an obsession with opening study, and I'm guilty of it. I love studying openings as much as the next person, but it really doesn't move the needle all that much. Now, if you want to get further down the line, of course, nuanced opening study is really going to help. But when you're getting up to the 1500 level, get your openings down, get them steady and solid, and just keep playing them. Even if everyone at the club knows you play your certain openings, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You're going to be more familiar with the middle games anyway, and you're going to have an advantage both over the board, likely if your openings are solid, but you're probably going to have an advantage in time playing over the board like tournaments, which is a bit of an advantage. And you're also going to have an advantage on navigating the resulting position out of the opening. And so at Chess Goals, this is going to sound like a commercial. I swear it's not. This is truly my best chess advice. At Chess Goals, we have very short courses that get you your openings without completely burning you out. One of the biggest lies I think chess players have been sold in chess improvement is that you need like 1,000 line lifetime repertoire taught by a grandmaster. You don't. At Chess Schools, we have it's like 15 or 16 courses at this point, and they're all 100, right around 100 lines. I'll just give you my opening repertoire. With Black against E4, I'm playing the Caro-Kann. Caro-Kann is probably our best course. It's my favorite, and you can study you can learn that whole repertoire in like 6 hours, 7 8 hours, something like that, and you can review the whole thing in like 40 minutes. So at the if you're prepping for a tournament, you do not have time to review 1,000 line repertoire, but you can totally review 100 lines here and there. Against D4, I play something similar to our Note Boom course, but I don't follow it to a T. And then with White, I play E4, and we have a wonderful E4 repertoire. It's about 100 lines again, and I am almost never out of book early in the game, in the Caro, in E4, and in D4. I think part of that is simply learning the lines and knowing how to navigate, but also it's more just playing. So let's get the openings, let's get the running shoes out of the way, and then focus on what's really going to move the needle for improvement, both on the track and also over the board. So now we're going to get into step two, or I guess improvement area number two, and this is really the bread and butter of chess improvement and something that should be part of your regimen, like your chess improvement regimen at all times. And this is playing blitz or rapid, playing a ton of games, and training tactics. If you do this, maybe an hour or two a day over the long haul, this I think is really going to push the needle. Just kind of like build your floor up. So you're seeing these tactics better and better. You're ingraining them more in your head. You're getting more experience with your openings, and maybe you're not making great strides forward, but you're just kind of like raising the floor, getting your experience under your belt. You're able to continue building off your opening repertoire and getting the reps in. If you want to get extra credit, you just review your games and figure out how you lost, why you lost. And Blitz and Rapid plus Tactics, these are the equivalent of your easy runs. So when I was marathon training, I did about 3 runs a week that were just easy, where you go out, maybe it's 4 or 5 miles, and you're not over stressing yourself. I'm not running very hard at all. I'm doing maybe like 10 to 11 minute miles, so I'm not like really churning and burning. And so they're nice and slow. You work up a little sweat, but when you get back, you feel fine. You're not feeling like you're gasping for air, or you need a break, or you need to stop during your run at all. It's basically when you're first getting started, just the bread and butter, just these nice, easy runs. And so these are going to kind of build up your chess foundation, but it's not going to really push you over the humps and give you massive gains. So another pillar of marathon training, and I'm gonna connect this to chess training is your long runs. And your long runs is where you really build up that long endurance. So for marathon training, I did a long run every weekend, and I kind of alternated weeks where I would go up by 2 miles. So I would do like a 12-mile run, and then the next week 10 miles, and then 14, and then 11, and then 16, and then 12, or something like that. And then I timed it so I did my longest run was 20 miles, and that was 2 weeks before the actual race. Now in chess, instead of doing long runs, you're playing very slow games. And these are going to be your tournament rated games and your like USCF or FIDE rated games. Maybe even you're in like some sort of chess league where you can get in reps playing 45-minute games with a big increment or something like this. And this is really where you're going to learn a lot about chess and a lot about your openings and a lot about playing accurate, good middle games, and basically themes that come out of your openings. So one thing I recently discovered in a slow game is I tried to pile up a bunch of pieces against a weak pawn in a specific opening that we play in the Caro-Kann, and my opponent was able to defend that pawn basically with no problem. And I didn't have anything to play for because all my pieces were tied up at this one pawn. My opponent defended that pawn, and so I didn't really have a thread to play afterwards. I basically had to abandon that whole pawn and that whole plan and play something different. So now every time I play that line, I'm going to play differently because I know that attacking this pawn is a fruitless endeavor. I need to come up with a different middle game plan. And if you just keep piling those lessons on top of each other, on top of each other, you're going to have so much more experience. And this, I believe, is what's really going to move the needle. These long, slow games. At our club, we play 60-minute games with a 30-second increment throughout. I don't know what it is with my games, but I seem to have some sort of chess curse where every single game I play lasts like 2.5 hours. So we're using all of our time plus a huge increment. But I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I don't know why all my games last so long. Maybe I need to play more aggressively or something. Um, but that is where the heart of chess is these long, slow games. But the thing is, you can't play a long, slow game every single day, or I guess maybe you can. Um, but I play one a week when I'm doing my chess tournaments, and it helps immensely. After playing a game like that, you just feel sharper in your blitz. You feel sharper in your openings. I don't know what it does to rewire your brain, but you're just like more hyper aware of the board after playing a very long, focused game of chess. And so uh, let's recap real quick. So your opening are your running shoes. It doesn't matter all that much. You kind of set it and forget it and just kind of work with what you have. Your foundation, your base building, that's going to be your blitz and tactics. And in training, that's going to be your to uh, short to mid range easy runs where you're uh, not straining too hard or anything like that. Your slow games are your long runs, so you're building up your endurance, you're building up your critical thinking skills over the board, and really putting all your work into action over the board. Another aspect of training is speed work. So that's going to be you go out and do a mile as fast as you can, followed by a mile of rest, or like 5 minutes of rest, or something like that. Or maybe you're running at a faster pace of your easy runs and you get your heart rate up a bit, but you maintain that for a longer period of time, maybe like 5 miles or something like that. That's more like training for the actual race. And this intense work you can only do maybe once a week or maybe twice a week if you're really pushing it. But you just need extra recovery time if you're doing a lot of speed work. And I am going to relate this to intense chess study. That's going to be maybe studying studying a middle games book or solving very difficult tactics problems or maybe going through some like middle game course like beginner move by move on ChessGoals, uh, something like that, or working through one of the many books that you have bought over the years and abandoned if you're anything like me. I'm looking at two chess books right now that I have started and not finished. Um, that is going to build your house of chess improvement. So you get your openings out of the way, you set them and forget them, and you just use them for the long haul. When you're kind of in your easy mode, you're doing blitz and rapid and studying tactics, building up your floor, building up your knowledge and pattern recognition. Slow games, that's really where you're going to see a lot of your improvement and put all your work into action over the board. And that's where you actually build your rating. And the intent study, that's going to be more like your speed work. Aim for maybe an hour to a week of doing that. One thing that's different in chess world is you can add on a bunch more speed work, and it's not going to like or not speed work. You can add on a bunch more of this intense study, and it's not going to like physically harm you like a bunch of speed work would in racing and running. So you can build that up if you want, but it's hard to take a lot out of, in my opinion, or I guess in my experience, it's hard to take a lot out of that intense study if you do it too much. So all of this is going to help you build a all this is going to help you build a fortress of chess improvement. And of course, there's other things you can be doing all the time. So with racing, you can do stuff like uh, fueling up well, eating good food that's going to help you recover, resting, sleeping well, stuff like taking those goos that taste terrible while you're out on your run, like on your long runs. These are all supplemental type of things, and there's also supplemental type of things that you can do with chess, and that would be stuff that's fun, like watching your favorite YouTuber, watching a Title Tuesday stream, watching Hikaru's lie detector test. Those are all fun. Listening to this podcast, even. This isn't going to really move the needle, but all these little things just kind of like reinforce how great chess is and makes you stick with it for the long haul. And last thing I'm going to say is you can't expect to train and run your very first marathon and qualify for Boston. And same with chess. You can't study for 3 months and expect to play like a 1500 or play like even an 800. This takes time. I started playing chess almost 10 years ago. So it'll be 10 years ago in December. And it has taken me, it took me about 8 years to get to 1500. So it is a long time. It is steady improvement, and don't expect overnight results. Just like in running, you can't expect to show up your very first marathon and qualify for Boston. So, those are my tips for reaching 1500. Let's just recap one last time. Your openings are your running shoes, your blitz and rapids and tactics, those are your foundational easy runs. Your slow games are your long runs where you're building up your endurance and really improving. And your intense study, that's more of like your sprinting and your speed work. All the extra stuff you do on top of it is accessories that can help, but it's not going to really move the needle. So let's stick with the basics, the blocking and tackling of chess improvement. Play a lot and keep it fun. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.